Hi everyone, my name is Kim and I'm here to talk about the affliction of trichotillomania, trichotemnomania, and dermatillomania. I personally have had all of these since I was 12, and I've tried to dedicate some of my time now to helping people to understand, the causes and conditions that surround the affliction of trichotillomania. It seems like it's become a lot more prevalent in our society, even though people don't want to talk about these body focused repetitive behaviors that are like kind of classified under OCD. And I've suffered with them for about 40 years now, and I'm doing more and more research. And I just thought I would share this information with anyone that's interested. I seem to get positive feedback from my videos that people feel like they're not alone. And so I have recently done an ayahuasca tour ceremony, and that's really helped me to heal my soul. I mean, this is not just a this lifetime affliction. This is generational, I believe, and I believe that beliefs have been passed down, or anxiety and fear has been passed down from other generations, and we've inherited these things and we can't really cope with the stress and being overwhelmed, so we've created these coping mechanisms of trichotillomania, trichotemnomania, dermatillomania, nail biting. So for those of us that suffer PTSD from whatever belief system or whatever traumatic event that's happened in our childhood, now we're left having to deal with, the hair cutting, the hair pulling, the nail biting, the skin picking. So, in my ayahuasca ceremony, I started talking with shamans and the studying of the fact that traumatic events can cause like a part of your soul to leave your body, which then causes anxiety, which then promotes the trichotillomania, trichotemnomania. And one thing that I found really interesting that I wanted to share was this thing called susto or susto. It's spelled Susto, and it's a Latin American term, and it has to do with a fright sickness. And what they say is that it's caused from a trauma. And when someone is suffering from, susto, they believe that a part of their soul has left their body. And I know for a fact that probably happened to me. I suffered sexual abuse and rape when I was, less than 5 years old. And I know that I never felt safe being here, and I dissociated. I don't remember half my childhood. I had traumatic events. And so they basically say that the most prevalent demographic that suffers from cysto is women and children. So if you've had any kind of trauma in your life and you're trying to figure out why you have trichotillomania or trichotemnomania, look at your past traumas, because that's what's going to free you from these afflictions. And when I first started, I had no control over my hair cutting or hair pulling. I was almost unconscious. I felt like another spirit came in and took over my body and just started making me cut my hair. I was really aggravated for years that I felt like I was being mind controlled. Um, and now I've done some research. I've done counseling. I've done hypnotherapy. I've done journaling. I've done the 12 steps of recovery. And all these processes have helped me to become more conscious. And the more conscious you are, the more aware you are of what your mind is saying when you're doing the hair cutting or, doing the hair pulling. And so basically, the traumatic event, susto, causes anxiety. And, the anxiety is what causes you to have another coping mechanism, because the anxiety overwhelms you and you feel like you're out of control. And so you go to the coping mechanism of, okay, what am I in control of? Well, I can cut my hair. And for me, cutting my hair had to do with like deeply rooted feeling not good enough, feeling that like one person in my family wanted all women to have long hair and they were beautiful if they had long hair. And then the other person in my family would get jealous if I had long hair and I looked better than them. There was jealousy going on. So it was so twisted. And I want to put out there trickstop.com, trichstop.com, is a really amazing counseling session. It's a bunch of questions online, and it can help you get to some of the root causes of your thinking and your processing and your psychotherapy. So that helps me to understand that I was battling two different impressions in my family and trying to be perfect and trying not to get hurt and trying, to be good enough and to be likable and lovable. And all this stuff was just really confusing to me as a child. So, anyways, if you've had a traumatic event, it's caused most likely emotional and psychological damage. And if you didn't process all those feelings, which most of us don't when trauma happens, your mind suppresses it and pushes it down and pushes it down. And then it turns into PTSD because all those feelings are coming out randomly as you grow older, trying to process that event that happened. So the PTSD, has emotional disturbances, and it's like your emotions are trying to come out. But when I was a teenager, I started drinking and drugging because I couldn't deal with my feelings. And when the drinking and drugging stopped, I started with hair cutting. So all these triggers are basically, triggers can be anything from a smell, seeing something that reminds you of a traumatic event, any kind of situational familiarity with a trauma. So triggers are what causes the anxiety and the PTSD to come back. And so once you get into your triggers, that's when you start doing your cutting. And so getting in touch with what my triggers were was really important. And part of that was from the Trichotillomania counseling of what the triggers were. But everything triggered me. Someone would flatter me and say I look beautiful, I would cut my hair. Someone would say, oh, you look tired and ugly today or whatever, and I would just start cutting my hair. Like, never good enough, had to try to be perfect, no self-esteem or self-worth whatsoever. So, the Trichotillomania, Trichotemnomania, and Dermatillomania were all ways of coping with overwhelming stress. And, my mind just couldn't process the pain and the suffering. And I do believe part of my soul left my body, which caused me to live in more anxiety because part of me wasn't even here. So, I've done a 12-step process. I've done counseling, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done journaling and exercising like yoga, Tai Chi. All those things help you to balance your energy so that you can deal with processing why you have trichotillomania. And these intense feelings are trying to surface, so let them out. Don't drink them down. Don't smoke them down. Don't shop them down. Don't, do any kind of addictive behavior, because then that just pushes the emotions down and you're going to have them surface at some other time. Might be inappropriate, might have emotions coming out sideways at people. So, the trauma has to come out and resolve itself. That means feel your feelings. That means get some professional help. And also become more conscious of what you're thinking when you're cutting and when you're hair pulling and when you're picking your skin. Become conscious. Say, why am I doing this? Like, what am I thinking right now? What am I feeling? Who said something to me? Or what just happened that triggered me? Where's the trigger? Why am I feeling anxiety? Also, be careful with who you hang out with. I grew up with people in addiction, and I was tied to them energetically, and we're all connected. So and this doesn't even mean in a relationship. It could be a family member who is an alcoholic, or someone else at work who you work with 10 hours a day who's a drug addict. Be careful who you're tied with, because when they go off on their addiction, your energy is with them, and then all of a sudden you're triggered in anxiety. So I've realized that I was tied to a certain person in my family, and that person was a drug addict and an alcoholic. And my childhood was constantly, the emotions were just constantly being jerked around left and right, because I'm an empath too, so I feel everything. I feel more than I want to feel. And I've had to do a lot of meditation and prayer to cut down what I feel around other people. I have social phobia. I don't like being around crowds of people. I don't like feeling all that crazy energy because I can't shut it off. And because everything triggers me, and then I go into fear, and then I cut my hair. So yes, I'm a basket case. And if you're out there and you're a basket case, you're not alone. I'm just sharing that because doctors don't know what this is. I've gone to several doctors and hairdressers and people saying, oh, just don't cut your hair. Now, if you know what OCD is, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. You can't just stop. It's infuriating when people say that. So as long as you can try to process your emotions and become more conscious of your feelings, you have opportunity to gain control over your cutting and your pulling. I have been struggling with it for 40 years, but I can say I am a lot more aware. My episodes are tiny, tiny, tiny now compared to when I was 15 years old. And, one day I went like this and went like that and cut off 5 inches of my hair. That was like completely possessed by whatever. Today, I'm aware of it. I'll go in the bathroom and I'll be like, okay, why are we cutting? What is going on here? Let's go for a walk. Let's get out of the house. Change it up. Do anything you can to not repeat the pattern of standing in front of the mirror and just obsessing. So other things you can do to become more conscious would be prayer, meditation, yoga, tai chi, raising your vibration, which means change your diet. Like don't drink any alcohol, don't smoke pot if you can help it, don't eat sugar out of control. I had a problem when I stopped drinking of eating way too much sugar, and it's taken me years to get into balance, and I'm still battling eating disorders now, but they're not as drastic as my drinking, my drugging, my hair cutting, my hair pulling. Everything has to be brought into balance by raising your vibration. And you could do a cleanse, cut out white flour, white sugar, carbs, eat vegetables, eat fruit, drink tons of water. Just try to bring your levels up, because the more conscious you are, the more in control of your cutting you can get. So I just wanted to share that, because the cysto thing and the losing a part of your soul made a lot of sense to me, with why I couldn't understand why I couldn't control my own body and why I had anxiety all the time as a child. And, we have created our own mechanism of cutting our hair and pulling out our hair because we were overwhelmed by emotions that we could not deal with. And, once you have PTSD, you keep re-experiencing the event that's trying to come out and trying to process. And your mind is trying to process those feelings and emotions that didn't get felt. So let those out. It's important. And the re-experiences are going to keep coming up. So try to have like a plan. So if you know you're going to be triggered, try to have a plan. Try to know, all right, I'm going to call a friend, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to get out of the house. And all these little things can add up to a support system for yourself for gaining control over the cutting and the pulling. Because it's an emotional disorder, and then it's a psychological disorder. Trauma could have happened once, and it could have been one big event, and you're overwhelmed. Or it could be repeated trauma, which is like emotional abuse over a long period of time. I know for me, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And complex, it means that like the caregivers actually did a lot of the damage with invalidation or neglect or, emotional abuse. And that's really confusing to a child. And, so you're basically recovering from your childhood or from a traumatic event. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm not blaming families. I'm not blaming situations. A lot of our stuff was generationally inherited. And I know for me, when I did my ayahuasca ceremony, the shaman told me that the stuff that I was working on right then was not even my belief system. It was from generations. So I have to clear out grandparents' belief systems and parents' belief systems before I can even get to my own trauma. So I encourage you to keep trying to do the work, doing more research all the time, and subscribe to my site below, and good luck. God bless.